All right. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hope I'm so excited for you to be here and share a kickoff of getting back to the basics with our school and ourselves. Our podcast is really meant to be for the educator at heart. There's a lot of things going on in the education world, and we just want to slow down and getting back to the basics. Think of ourselves around the campfire, just chit-chatting about the world of education. So thank you again for joining us and take a moment and just kind of tell the viewers a little bit about yourself and your background because even though you retired, you
Mhm,
rewired and you haven't
mhm.
left the education world. So share a little bit of that with us.
Well, thank you, Dana. And I am honored to be one of your first podcasts. I am a true believer in Camp Explore. So this was just an adventure that I couldn't wait to do. Yes, I had 43 years in education. And I like to say I'm not old, I've just been around a long time.
That's right.
12 of those years was in the classroom,
Mhm.
kindergarten, first, third. Then skipped up to middle school, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade math. I was an assistant principal for 7 years, a principal for 6 years, 20, excuse me, a principal for 12, 16 years. And
There you
that's
go.
really where my heart was. And then
Uh-huh.
I went to the central office for the last 8 years of my career in public education. Currently, I am working with our Alabama Association for elementary school principals as the director of that association.
Wow. What a resume. What a resume.
Well,
So he's like an icon on here with us. And I don't know if you remember, but when I was maybe in my third or fourth year of teaching, and the district person would come in and start talking about retirement, and like you couldn't even wrap your head around
no,
that, right?
no,
And now we're both way past that retirement stage, but
yes,
we just aren't ready to leave this world just yet.
exactly.
I also saw a really cute reel this past week of they took an old overhead projector and put it on a cart and put it in the halls of a high school and let the
Mhm.
kids walk down and make predictions about what it
That's
was.
so funny. Or what
That's
I would love to see them see a film projector machine. We used to have to learn
exact-
to thread that and able to get through one of our teacher ed classes.
I loved overhead because you didn't have your back to the student.
Right,
You could
right,
write and it's up there and you could see that. But
exactly.
what was funny is maybe shortly after I started teaching, they did away with those. And I was like,
Yeah,
no, bring it back, bring it
yeah,
back. So
yeah.
wow, 40 plus years is quite the milestone. So I
Well,
can't wait to hear some words of wisdom. Like you said, you've been around a while.
mhm,
We specifically chose you to go along with our chapter that's called Unpacking Our Gear.
mhm,
And it talks about what are our beliefs, our experiences, our habits,
mhm,
our assumptions that we bring into teaching and to leading.
mhm,
Because you have taught in the 80s, the 90s, the
mhm,
2000s, all the way up. You've been in
mhm,
education. Um, you know about mindset. And
mhm,
so you often speak through this lens of it shouldn't be about doing more, it should be about
mhm.
doing things differently. Speak to us a little bit about what that mindset means to you.
Okay. As a teacher, I had several different principals, and of course,
Mhm.
everyone has their different style. But when I
Right.
became a principal, I guess I developed the belief that in order to help the students, you have to help the teacher. There's
Hmm.
some research that says for every one bad year a child has, it takes two or three to catch up. So that was
Hmm.
a belief that I firmly tried to lead by as a principal. From there, when I went to the central office from my little school that I was in total control of, I was over 27 elementary principals from
Wow.
27 different schools with all varied backgrounds from the high performing affluent schools to the struggling schools, Title One schools. So
Mhm.
I carried that belief there. And I quickly also realized that some principals felt like giving the teachers more programs, more resources, more was going
Mhm.
to help them, when in fact it was doing the exact opposite, putting more on that teacher's plate. They were just drowning, absolutely drowning. And that's when a lot of I guess you could say resistance came in. But that was one of the things, I guess, my first thing that I noticed going from principalship to
Hmm.
central office.
Right.
Um, and I guess that's where my, if you want to call it, aha, come to Jesus moment was at my first Camp Explore experience.
Right.
Um, it was, um, but I guess the thing that I also observed during my time is a lot of administrators didn't know the difference between curriculum and instruction.
Wow.
Everyone had to go through, and I think one of the worst things that states do is the dreaded textbook adoption. You
Mhm.
have to, if you're on that committee, you basically sign away your first child if you tell
Yeah.
anyone about anything that's going on during that time. It's so top secret about the textbooks you're reviewing, but that curriculum is really what your state standards are.
Right.
Instruction is how you present and teach those standards. And
That's
when I went to Camp Explore, it was like, this is what we've been missing all along. This
right.
is taking off the teacher's plate and putting on that one thing that they can do. It doesn't matter. I know I've heard teachers say, oh, we've got to start all over again because our curriculum changed. Their
Mhm.
textbooks changed, their curriculum didn't.
That's
So
right.
it was at that time that, like I said, I had that really aha moment of what they were doing, what you were doing at Camp Explore was exactly what we needed to take things off the teacher's plate.
That's right. So when we say this phrase of getting back to the basics, it's right. It's understanding instructional efficacy
Mm-hmm.
because we have been given this abundance of information around curriculum and
Mm-hmm.
scripted programs. We as elders in education started
Mm-hmm.
to see that there was a lack of tool sets, right? There was a lack of
Yeah.
skill sets because if they weren't told what to say or do, they didn't really know
Mm-hmm.
how to go in and ramp up the rigor or to
Mm-hmm.
get to higher order thinking, how to build in scaffolding. And so it was about let's really understand what engagement, what is the definition? Recently, we've been focusing a lot on academic discourse. And so we just want to meet the learner where they are, right? So you'll
Mm-hmm.
have a room full of educators and you'll say, tell us your definition of academic discourse. And a few folks will even put a question mark.
Yeah.
We're really guilty in education of adopting a lot of vocabulary without hitting the pause button to say, what is this and what does it mean? I wanted you to kind of speak to when educators overthink things and you
Mm-hmm.
spoke to that.
Yeah.
And you even spoke to a little bit of what was missing.
Mm-hmm.
And so thinking about you referenced your time at Camp Explorer, what did you expect out of the experience? What did you
Mm-hmm.
want to walk away from? And then maybe is that what you walked away from, or was it
Yeah.
something completely different? Kind of speak
Yeah.
to that.
Yes. Well, in my position at central office, like I said, over those schools, I was in charge of everything from their PD
Mhm.
to hiring to car rider line when it was backed up to Highway 59. So
Uh,
when I started noticing the differences in when the teachers would say that, I knew that we needed something different. We had been through every PD probably possible, and I think if you ask any educator what their hell on earth would look like, a lot of them would say professional development because
right.
that's where I'm going to sit and die. It had always been sit and get.
Uh-huh.
So when I started learning about some things with Camp Explorer, I thought, well, since I also hold the purse strings for this PD,
Uh-huh.
I'm going to go and I'm going to see what this is all about because the worst thing in the world is to send a team somewhere and it not
Right.
be worth their time. So
Uh-huh.
my first experience there was I immediately could see number one the difference.
Mhm.
I tend to be a little maybe ADHD, and I like to move around. And sitting in PD, like I said, is torture. So
Mhm.
I was up and moving. I was paying attention. I could remember what I did because I was moving and doing the whole time. And the whole time I'm thinking, I can't wait to get back. I can't wait to send someone. The thing I think that hit me the most was, and I go back to when we change curriculum or we change textbooks, that the things that Camp Explore taught, the
Mhm.
strategies and the interventions, can be
Mhm.
used with any subject at any time, and it doesn't
Mhm.
matter what your textbook is. If you're teaching multiplication, if you're teaching something in English, if you're teaching something in science, that strategy can be used at any time for anything. And it's that tool belt that you were building for these teachers to, no matter what comes your way, I can pull this out of my tool belt and I can use this strategy and intervention, and every learner will be engaged. And that
Right.
was, to me, the crowning moment of what Camp Explore had done for me the first time.
Wow, that gave me goosies because
Yeah,
that is
it, yeah,
the epitome of what we were trying to achieve. And
mm-hmm, yeah,
we kind of joke around sometimes about the movie Talladega Nights and Rick and
yeah,
Bobby saying, if you're not
yeah,
first or last,
that's right.
well, we believe if you're not hitting 100% in engagement,
Mm-hmm,
you're missing the mark, right? And
exactly.
so just we're getting this incredible feedback from the different mini camps and the camp experiences that we're doing. And I think one of the feedback pieces I'm most excited about and is said, "Did you have fun learning today?" And it's like
Mm-hmm,
99.6%.
mm-hmm.
Can't please everybody. Some people are going to be uncomfortable getting up and
Well,
moving, but yes, they have fun learning. And
mm-hmm,
so when you ignite that fire under teachers, they're going to be more likely to take that back and use in the classroom. And then the other one is out of all the components of what we try to
mm-hmm,
cover, which is, active listening, active processing, the engagement level, higher order thinking, and we kind of have this list for them to pick from. And the amount of people that have the aha around the
mm-hmm,
100% engagement,
yeah,
it just blows my mind. But man, what a great outcome to speak to. And so you are definitely
yeah,
getting it moving.
yeah,
And so, thinking about, we had this chance to speak to people that have worked with us before, as well as those
mm-hmm,
people that haven't worked with us before. What would you say to district leaders,
mm-hmm,
maybe building leaders that are seeing some of the same gaps that you
mm-hmm,
spoke about in their walkthroughs or in their data or in their PLCs? What would you speak to them about, like, district leader to district leader or principal to
yeah.
principal?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I am a really firm believer in, if it's something that you are supervising, it's something you're supposed to be observing, you need to know what you're looking at. And
Yeah,
so I always attended any PD with my teachers that I was sending them to. I felt like if it was important enough for them to be out of the classroom, I needed to be there with them. I needed to
correct,
set
correct.
that example that it's
Mhm.
important for you to be here, so I'm going to be here. And so I guess my first one, as soon as I got back from that first Camp Explore meeting, my next group I took was central office staff,
You
because I
did.
wanted them to know when they're out in our schools what you should be looking for, what that engagement, that 100% engagement you were just talking about, looks like. And
Right.
I had to do some bribing to get central office people to go,
Uh-huh.
but we went and they had an amazing time. They came back, they were just as on fire as I was. And
Right.
so, for your district to know, I think it's very important for admin to attend, to know what they're looking for, what real true engagement looks like. The next
Right.
time I went, and I think this is also important for your district leaders to know, is, how do you help a school? We're all this turnaround school, turnaround, we spend lots and lots of money on turnaround schools. Well,
Mm,
with at Camp Explore, when you send a team there, they're having time to, number one, bond and work together, but they
that's
also have that time to plan. And my next group was to take one of my schools that was struggling.
right. Hmm.
They were had been a superstar principal there for like 15 years, and she
Right.
retired. And the poor girl that came in behind her was really
Mm,
struggling. And it wasn't really so much her, it was just the group. You had ones that were still trying to follow the old principal, even though she wasn't there, and ones that, so this group really came together as a group. They saw their gaps, they saw
mm,
the things, and they got to see that principal as really one of them, because she was learning along
right.
with them. So they knew that she would know, and it literally change that school. It's a 7.5 hour ride from my district to South
Uh-huh.
Carolina. So I
Right.
purposefully put all the negative Nellies in the car with me.
Uh-huh.
And by the time it didn't take me till we got out of the city limits to realize that that was the problem, that they needed time to bond together, they needed time to work together, and to really get to know each other as educators. So, as a district leader, there to when you have those schools that are struggling, you can choose to have those mini camps that are great, but that's,
Mhm.
to me, was a follow up. But actually going to a camp and having a team there together that
Yeah.
struggling is, it's priceless. It's really priceless.
I think back to our very first camp when you were speaking, and we did the teacher camp first.
Hmm.
And asking them, we had two surprises with that
Hmm.
camp. The first one is asking them, why are you here? What is it you're wanting to achieve? And the answers we expected were things like, well, my principal asked me to come, or I'm a grade level rep, or I'm just ready to learn something new. And
Yeah.
to our astonishment, a large percentage, I would say 60 to
Hmm.
70% of the people didn't give us those answers. They said, I don't have the confidence that I would like
Hmm.
to have. I don't feel like I'm a strong teacher. And we kept hearing that. And I mean, it
Hmm.
was breaking our hearts because how do you show up every day and give everything you have to give when you don't think you're good at what you're doing? And
Hmm.
it stopped us in our tracks as
Yeah.
facilitators because what a sad state of affair. And
Right.
but for them to see them blossom in just 3 days and get a new sense of confidence. And then the second surprise to us were the amount of principals and administrators
Hmm.
that came to the teacher camp. And so of course we're saying,
Hmm.
why are you here?
Yeah.
And they said some of the same things you said, that
Hmm.
they are going to PD, but it's more around curriculum, more around management budgets, those kind of things.
Right.
Not getting, I'm supposed to be an instructional leader, but I've been out of the
Hmm.
classroom and I've lost my instructional efficacy and I need
Hmm.
to know what this looks like. So that was really telling to us. And that spoke to that piece too. And then, like you said, we can be from a great school with great
Hmm.
teachers. We can be from a great district. But the honest reality is you are still drinking from the same brain juice punch bowl, right? You
Right.
need to get out of your district and hear and learn from other educators across different states. Um, this past January was one of our bigger events, and to think we had people there from Michigan and Florida
Hmm.
and Georgia
Oh
and
yeah.
Tennessee and North Carolina and South Carolina. So just being able to plan, yes, Bob,
Yes, Bob.
and then
Hmm.
plan that
Yes.
was just incredible.
Yeah, they don't have that time on campus because the fire alarm's going off, or somebody's got an emergency, or the
Right.
sub has left and the teacher has to go
That's
back.
right.
There's so many things. And I think that's funny when you were talking about asking them. I'm glad that you didn't ask my central office staff that, because they probably would have said they were court ordered. So it was,
And we take that too. We actually
yeah,
expected that. We did. And so
yeah.
we
But they were very complimentary on the way home, and
yeah,
glad that they did attend. Yeah.
yeah. Well, this idea of, for our listeners that maybe don't know that much about us, we have two kind of tracks of camps. One is for coaches, principals, and teachers. It's our teacher camp. And then we have our admin team camp, which can be principals, assistant principals, coaches, maybe your Title I facilitator. But Hope,
Mhm.
you spoke to another phenomenon that we're seeing that we did not expect, which is districts are bringing their district level teams.
Mhm.
We are seeing districts that are really trying to pour into admin changes. So if the
Mhm.
principal's new and the assistant principal's new, let's let them come and bond before they start trying to manage a school and
Mhm.
manage people, because like you said, all those other distractions aren't
Right.
going anywhere. And
Mhm.
some of the things that we will hear are things like, I got to know them more in 3 days than I would have in the
Mhm.
first 3 months of school. So this it's hard to express what the experience is about if you haven't been there, but you do have
It
to
is.
take a leap of faith. And I think that's what we
Yeah.
appreciate about you. She
Yeah.
definitely took that leap of faith.
Yeah.
So in the book, there is a quote. I want to read it so I can make sure
Okay.
I get the quote right.
All right.
It's when everything else keeps changing, people
Mhm.
don't resist, they brace, like they brace for impact.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that quote?
That's a good one because, from my generation to
Hmm.
you stayed after school. And if it
Hmm.
was 5 o'clock when that principal finished, it was just 5 o'clock.
Right.
Today, you just about have to pay a stipend to walk across the parking lot after 3 o'clock. So generations are very different. But I think over the years, one of the things I've tried to practice is that seek first to understand, then be understood. And that was a difficult one for me. But
Mhm.
people really aren't pushing back. I think it's not that they're unwilling, it's that they're overwhelmed. And
Yeah.
you have this survival piece in you that when you get overwhelmed, your brain says, okay, I've got to stop. I've got to stop and I've got to regroup. And I think
Hmm.
that's one of the things I've seen that teachers are just overwhelmed. And then we
Right.
bring in another change. And I think the key question I've always tried to ask principals are when we're talking about any change, and my supervisors, or when we're central offices, I had like three questions I would always ask. Okay, why is the change needed? And is there data to support it? Because my
Yeah.
saying always was, in God we trust, and all others must bring data. So,
Uh-huh.
I think I believe, but what
Uh-huh.
does the data indicate? Why do we need this change? And
Hmm.
then, and will it, is it going to impact student achievement? And will it take something off the teacher's plate? If we're going to make a change and we don't want people to stop and resist, we've got to show them this is going to replace something. And I think that's one of the, here again, I had so many major, my brain was just spinning when I come back. But the strategies that Camp Explore teaches, they're teaching you how to manage change, and it's taking things off of your plate. And to
Yeah.
me, that was just the best gift that I could give any teacher in my district or any principal, to be able to go back to school and say, I'm taking this off your plate. This is going to be able to achieve everything we need to do. And then I think the last thing that when you think about change and why people resist is you need to say, can you support and survive the fallout? What's going to happen when people do? In other words, great leaders just don't lead change. They also absorb the pressure and create stability within. And I think that by taking a group to Camp Explore, you're getting them ready to be able to absorb any change. And that
Hmm.
leader is there to say, I'm going to help you through this, but I'm giving you this
Hmm.
as a gift to keep you from being overwhelmed and feeling that pressure. You could just see it was like, falling off of some people.
Hmm.
It just their, even their body language, their shoulders would drop. They
Right.
would go in
Right.
with their shoulders up around their ears, because they had to be there. And then as y'all spoke and as you brought in the games and the movement, you could just see people just relaxing. And so that bit about the resistance and bracing, that
Mhm.
just everything y'all did just took that away from anybody
Right.
that felt that way when they came in.
Right. Thinking again back to the title of this chapter, right? It's unpacking our gear. So just being
Mm-hmm.
willing to look at what are your beliefs and your habits and your assumptions. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember from your district, the entire district level special ed coordinators
Mm-hmm.
came as
Yes.
a way to try to build some longevity and some
Mm-hmm.
sustainability within that district team.
Yes.
And I remember one of the campers said, I just realized I'm walking into these buildings and I'm supposed to be partnering with them, but I'm not listening to them. I'm just going in like a
Exactly.
tornado, solving their problems, telling them what to
Mm-hmm.
do. And I think I've created some hardships in relationships because I haven't
Mhm.
stopped long enough to listen. And when we were teaching and learning about the different generations you were
Yes.
referring to, I think she had a lot of aha moments. And
Yes.
just like you said, her whole physicality
Hmm.
changed.
Yes.
She stopped being so stoic
Mhm.
and giving off that perception of I'm in this position because I know so much
Right.
versus let me hear what's going on with you and maybe I can
Hmm.
offer some of my wisdom. That was like a
Yeah.
turnaround right in real time.
It
So,
definitely was. And she was, on the side note, one that was court ordered. I think central office staff, if nothing
sure.
else, sometimes that's the way central office comes across. I'm
Yeah,
coming in to save you, principal, because you don't know any better and I know everything. And so
mhm,
it was really a mindset change for that division. And
yeah,
that, because that was the feedback I was getting. Hey, I'm the principal and they're coming in trying to tell me what's
yeah,
right, what's wrong, instead of that, here again, seek first to understand, then be understood, because they
yeah,
could help them. And I think any central office sometimes gets that maybe stigma, or to say that when they come in, that's
mhm,
everybody's opinion of them, and it shouldn't be that way. Central office should be there to help and to learn side by side and provide resources when needed.
absolutely. So, as we come to closure,
Hmm.
you are a camper of all camps. You have been to our summer camp, both teacher
Yes.
camp and admin camp.
Yep.
You were even part of the beta when the camps were
Yeah.
being field
Uh-huh.
tested. You've been to
Yeah.
many camps where,
Hmm.
if we came to the schools to work with the schools on individual basis, you came by
Hmm.
and you visited that. You've been to test prep boot camp, which I'm going to
Yes.
say is getting some. I can't even come up with the
Yeah.
adjective, amazing results there
Yeah.
with the schools hitting their growth target. So you have also been to our virtual coaching where we follow up from our camp. So you have honestly been to a camp.
Hmm.
You are a camper of all camps. You've been to everything. So if there was a 1 minute infomercial that someone stuck a microphone in front of you, which I have right here and I'm sticking right in
Okay.
front of you,
All right.
what would you say to the first timers like that?
Okay.
And I think we need to clarify, they don't have to stay in a tent in the woods.
That's what
Like,
I,
I think
yeah.
we need to clarify that.
Yes.
But what
Yes.
would you say to those first
Yeah.
timers?
Well, first of all, 1 minute, I need 59 more minutes of that 1 minute actually to do this topic justice. But I think to begin my infomercial, I would hold up a packet of some of the amazing activities they go home with. And my hair would look really good in my infomercial. And I would start out and I'd say, let me tell you something. If you're thinking about Camp Explore, it is not just another PD. If you think that, you're wrong. I've attended almost every camp they offer, the summer, the admin, the test prep, the all the different mini camp sessions. And I have witnessed life changing, career saving transformation that it created. It's not just a sit and get PD. This is a hands on, high energy, real strategies that teach standards that can be used with every subject in everyday camp. Every day, Camp Explore is where thinking shifts, leadership sharpens, and instruction actually improves. Camp Explore isn't adding more to your plate, it's about changing and how you use what you already know. And if there's another truth, you don't leave drained and feeling like your time was wasted, or you leave fired up with clarity, confidence in a team or an individual plan. So if you're tired of the same old thing and ready for something that actually makes a difference for your teachers and your students, Camp Explore is where you need to be.
Well, we need to film you and put an infomercial out there because I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
Change, transformation, all those things that you're seeking. So. It has been a great time around the campfire today. Thank you for
Yeah.
joining us. And thank you for still pouring into the educators of Alabama and all the other surrounding states. You are making a difference and
Well, thank
you
you.
are letting your experience be blessings to others. So thank you for your support. Thank you for all you do. And we couldn't ask for a better partner to come to camp. So thank you
Well,
so much.
thank you, Dana. Thank you so much. I truly enjoyed it and was honored to be here today.
We can't wait to get responses from your podcast and to
Yes.
see your cameo in the book. So
Okay.
viewers will be learning more about that at a later date.
Yeah.
But thank you again.
Thank you.